Go, 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 let's get it. I'm a trapping fanatic, that shit automatic, so I cannot turn it on or off. Bitches all on my dick, then she hop on my dick, I'm like, why you keep hopping on and off? Yo, bitch all on my dick, she be doing the most, I tell her, little bitch, you so extra. And my gun up on me, but not run up on me, niggas, they wanna fight, they some wrestlers.
Izuku Midoriya is a child in a world of heroes who seems to be missing what makes or breaks a hero in this world, a quirk. While at home, watching All Might, the boy flips to a couch. I'll become the next #1 hero and protect the world. Inko, his mother, only smiles towards him, but she notices something. His feet begin to ignite with flames, yet her son seemed okay. The flames then go away and the boy jumps down. I have a quirk. She would then hug her son, telling him to use it, to protect others and himself. He makes the promise to her, and in the middle of the night, Izuku has a strange dream. In this dream, he saw a mysterious figure while in a black and white world. He would sit up quickly, noticing he was sweating heavily, but then looked around. His house was on fire. He shouts for his mother, but she was already dead. Izuku is then saved by pro-heroes as his house would cave in on itself. He keeps crying, but for some reason, he also smiles. Seeing this, the heroes would wonder if this child was the cause for this. Citizens, who would also see this, begin to call that boy a devil for killing his own mother. Izuku is placed in an orphanage for children who can't control their own powers, as this is where he's raised for the next 9 years until the UA entrance exams. Izuku steps forward into UA High for his test and gets many stares, with him being the demon that killed his mom. He goes inside and takes the written exam, passing it easily. Then comes the practical exam, where Izuku seems to be standing alone. No other participants dare to even get close to him. Bakugo is one of the people who hears the whispers about this kid being a devil who has immense strength, but it interests him. Bakugo then walks over to Izuku. Hey devil, I don't give a damn what anyone says about you being strong. I'm the strongest here, and I'll be the one to show it. I figured it would be fun for us to blow these other losers out of the water. Bakugo holds out his hand, but Izuku slaps it away. Shut the hell up. Your voice is annoying. Izuku then bursted into the fake city without waiting for instruction. The flames below his feet allow him to glide through the air and destroy many robots that were in his way. This is when President Mike tells them all not to wait for a timer and just begin the battle. By the time they entered the first district, all the robots in that area had already been destroyed, with flames left on them. Due to growing up in this type of facility, Izuku has perfect control over his pyrokinetic quirk. Soon comes a 0-point bot, and a girl who was going to be crushed by its foot was then saved by Izuku. He drops her off away from the robot and then heads back out without saying anything to her. It then cuts to Izuku, who stood at the end of the street looking at it. If I take you down, then there's no way a person like me won't get into UA. Izuku begins to charge up and attack with flames surrounding the back half of his body. I'm glad I finally got to use this one. I've been meaning to get rid of some of this stress. Since they really do call me a devil, I'll show them the power of one. Izuku puts his hands on the ground, launching forward, using an attack that surrounds his body, making a dragon of flames, as he would land a kick against a 0-point bot, kind of like the one Might Guy did to Madara. This powerful attack allowed Izuku to leave a monstrous hole inside of the 0-point bot. Not bad. Looks like my dragon kick is even better now. Izuku then turns around, noticing everyone was staring at him. Maybe if you losers stopped watching and moved your ass, you could do something like that. He then heads off, leaving this horrible impression, and heads back to the facility where he's still being raised. A couple weeks then go by as they receive a letter for Izuku, as he's gotten into UA. He's not shocked at all and begins to prepare himself for school. When the first semester begins, Izuku is nowhere to be seen as he arrives to the classroom late. He walks in and takes a seat, laying his head on the desk just to fall asleep. Aizawa then thinks to himself, so, this is the so-called devil. He's just a regular teenager with an impressive quirk. The homeroom teacher then gets a flashback to the moment where Izuku used his Flame Dragon kick to destroy the 0-point bot in just one go. Even though he ripped a hole inside of the robot, it then began to burn after, leaving it completely incinerated. If an attack like that was used on a human, they would die upon impact, let alone the foot completely going through their body. He snaps back from his flashback, and he tells the class to put on their gym uniforms and meet him outside. Once they all arrive, he tosses a baseball to Izuku. What the hell do you want me to do with this? Throw it, using your quirk. The students in the class then comment how his quirk is on his feet, but Izuku glares at them. You're underestimating me, and that's your problem. Izuku burns through his shoes and then grabs the ball with his feet somehow, as he does a front flip, slinging the ball forward with his flames coming off of it. The ball then travels pretty far before it burns to ash. Throughout each physical test, Izuku seems to rank in first place, even with Bakugo, Todoroki, and Ida there. After it's all done, it's revealed that no one was being expelled. It was just a test. All Might is then seen watching them from a corner, just to see how this new class of heroes is doing. Aizawa then walks around the corner seeing him, asking why he was there. Well, I just want to see the new students. Cut the act. I know why you're really here. It's that kid, isn't it? The incident that occurred when he was a child. After that day, more and more villains began to appear, and we both know that can't be a coincidence. That day truly did spark a new fire in the evil that roams Japan. All Might recalls that day vividly, as he was one of the heroes there to save the child. He even went back into the building to try and find the mother, but he couldn't even find the body, as it must have been burned. But somehow, that kid survived that. I hate to think it, but that child may somehow be connected to that man. All Might then walks away, and at lunch, Izuku sits alone. Everyone in the cafeteria completely avoids him, so he decides he won't even eat in the cafeteria since it bothers everyone so much. Instead, he chooses to eat lunch on the roof of the UA building. The next days go by as casual as they can, as the UA students get adjusted to their new classes. But then, one morning, it seems they don't have a teacher, until All Might walks into the room, telling them to suit up and meet him outside. Each student has an outfit or a hero costume that suits their quirk, of course, and they all turn watching Izuku, who walks out in a black, red, and white costume. At the bottom of his pants near his ankles had extra boosters for his flames if he did need to use them. All Might then explains to them what they will be doing, and he has them pick their teams. The first group to go there, well, are the same as usual, as minutes later we see Izuku and Uraraka walking through the metal halls. Hey, what is it? I just want to say thank you for saving me, during the entrance exams. Izuku does this awkward smile while saying that's what heroes are supposed to do. Bakugo then comes rushing down the halls, and the two begin to fight. Izuku has a complete edge over his classmate, as Bakugo tries to use an explosion, but Izuku puts him in a chokehold with his legs, making him pass out. Uraraka, who could only stand and watch, didn't even have anything to say to him. Her teammate was a complete powerhouse. Is he really a devil? He doesn't seem that bad at all. He even saved me. Hey, give me your hand. I want to try something. She grabs it, and then he tells her to use her quirk. And as she does, Izuku propels himself forward, using his own. The two then appear all the way up in the room with Ida, who's protecting the bomb. The pretend villain zips around the room using his engines, but Izuku keeps up with him using his own flames. Ida then cranks up his speed, trying to hit Izuku, who only dodges and slams his own leg into Ida's shoulder, dislocating it. Once you learn how to really use those legs of yours, we can have a great fight." Ida didn't pay attention as he was screaming on the ground. Uraraka then captures the bomb for their team, giving them the win, as All Might tells the group to head back to the room so that they could review their battle. As they do, Izuku falls asleep, not caring at all. Later that day, before lunch, Aizawa tells them all to pick a class president and vice president. No one at all votes for Izuku, so Ida gets the position right away. And at lunch, he's still nowhere to be found, as he eats on the rooftop alone. When the security breach occurs, Izuku looks down towards the ground, realizing it was just a bunch of news reporters, but he could also see someone walking away from this group. Seems like things just got a little more interesting. Izuku stands up, beginning to stretch his legs, before launching off of the roof with his flames and crashing down on the person in a hood. He then asked him, "Who are you?" Shigaraki turned his face, looking at the kid who captured him, realizing who it was, and he would crack a smile. "Don't you really want to know? What happened to your mother that day?" Izuku flips off of him, wondering how he knows this information, and then asked him to explain it. A dark portal then appears behind Shigaraki, who would hold out his hand. "Join me, and the truth will be revealed to you." Izuku nods, but he wonders, should he really do it? But he turns around. "I'll just figure it out on my own. Just know the next time we meet, I'll be the one to kick your ass." Izuku then walks back to the front of the school, where he sees that the reporters are gone and the teachers are standing there. Immediately, some of the teachers begin to blame him based on the dragon flame kick that they witnessed, and his quirk in general. He doesn't even get a chance to defend himself, as they take him to the main office with the principal. Once he sits down, some ask him why he burned down the door, but he says he didn't. They call him a liar, and Izuku scoffs. "I was almost the one to capture the dude who did it, but he left in a dark portal. And even if I was the one to rip through that door, my attacks would have left the ground in ash as well. Plus, you would have seen me do it, because I would have been on the inside doing it, not from the outside. All of you just want a scapegoat, because having the devil who killed his mom at your school is giving it a bad reputation." Izuku then stands up, walking out of the room with some of them yelling at him as he slams the door, and Principal Nezu looks towards Aizawa. "I'm afraid that he's right. Yue's reputation has been on a decrease since his acceptance, but he has the highest scores on both of our exams, so we need to keep that boy here as long as possible, because if the villains were to get a hold of him, it could be catastrophic." Some of the teachers in the room say that they could handle the brat as a villain, and Principal Nezu pulls out Izuku's files from where he was raised. Each of them will go through them, realizing his heat, strength, and speed of his flames increased almost every year in which he was there. That's why he has to stay there permanently and not seek another home. We then cut back to Izuku, who was walking around and then walked back to the classroom with everyone staring at him. He takes his seat, and Mineta cracks a joke about him burning down the door, since they did see him outside, but Izuku grabs his face and slams it down into the desk. Ida then walks over to him, telling him violence is unacceptable. Izuku stands up and grabs his bag. "Man, everyone here is getting on my nerves. I'm heading home." Those in the class would tell him that he can't leave, but Izuku opens the window next to his desk and then jumps out of it, flying back to the facility where he was raised. Later in the week, when Class 1A would take their field trip to the USJ, Izuku was there as well, and when they arrive, Pro Hero number 13 explains to them what it means to be a rescue hero. Izuku speaks up, actually asking a question: if it's possible for a hero to save someone when all the odds are against them. The Pro Hero would nod to Izuku, who would only smile, creeping out his classmates. The group then walks into the facility, with Aizawa wondering where All Might was right now. As they get ready to walk down, well, Izuku sees the same dark portal from that day. Shigaraki steps out and makes eye contact with him. Well, it seems we meet once again. The villains begin to attack, but Eraserhead jumps down into action to defend them off for as long as he can. However, the students of Class 1A are still teleported all around the facility, and Izuku opens his eyes, falling into water, but before he does, he uses his quirk to stay flying. He then watches as Tsuyu and Mineta jump out of the water into a yacht. The shark villains then begin to tease Izuku how his flames will be ineffective in this location. Izuku then looks down towards them, smiling, as his flames become bright enough for everyone in the USJ to see. A bird will then surround Izuku as he crashes down into the lake. His flames would evaporate it, leaving the villains on the ground burned as well. Mineta then comments how he really is a devil. As they watch, as he bursted off to a new location, kicking the Nomu off of his homeroom teacher. You should tell him that you were the one to take the door down. Shigaraki then responds, Why should I? Because if you don't, I'll melt your face off. As Izuku says this, he flips right over the Nomu, kicking it back. Not bad. It's strong enough to withstand that type of attack? Well, I'll end this quickly. Shigaraki tells him he can't. The Nomu's healing factor will be too much for him. Izuku would shake this off. He won't be able to heal after this next attack. Let's see how fast this thing really is. Izuku places his hands on the ground and takes off, with Aizawa telling him to stop. But what he sees is Izuku completely overwhelm the beast. He then kicks through the Nomu, obliterating it with a burst of his flames, and it creates the image of a sun. Shigaraki then falls to the ground, with Izuku now turning to him. No, this can't be. You're not supposed to be this strong yet. What have you been doing? Izuku then kicks him to the wall. Haven't you heard the news? I'm the devil that roams Japan. Shigaraki is then teleported away just as the pro heroes would arrive, and here All Might doesn't have to fight the Nomu, since it was already dead. The remaining villains that were there are captured, and now the students can be brought to a safer location. This incident causes the school to be closed for just a few days, as the teachers and many pro heroes wonder what to do. Aizawa, during one of their meetings, sticks up for Izuku, but because Shigaraki escaped before they could see him, they still have their doubts. When the school reopens, Class 1A returns, with Aizawa telling them of the sports festival. The students then begin preparing for it, as it would soon begin. They were all in their specific waiting room when Izuku walks in. His classmates turn to him, but he ignores them and walks over to Todoroki. How good is your old man with his flames? Todoroki doesn't answer him, which angers Izuku, who would just leave the room. This confused them, especially Todoroki, because why would he ask about his father? When Class 1A walks out and makes their entrance, many other classes glare at them. Izuku is asked by Midnight to give a speech, but he declines, saying there's no point, says no one here wants to hear it anyway. She has the class president Ida do one instead, which takes a lot longer. And then, the first event will be revealed, an obstacle course. Izuku goes to the starting line, with no one standing near him. The gates then burst open, and he takes off with his flames. He makes it to the first area and rips through 3 0-point bots at once, shocking the crowd. President Mike comments how he was able to use this method during the entrance exams as well, but it seems he's improved it now. Aizawa, while watching, would think to himself, those files on his flames. Could right now, during his time at UA, they become stronger? And it seems they're also tied to his emotional state. That's the real key to his insane amount of power. He then snaps back to reality, watching Izuku make it to the rocky area, and he would just smile. They call this an obstacle course? Please. Izuku bursted all the way to the other end, and then looked back. This is child's play. Bakugo would somehow zip past Izuku but would be blown back by several mines. Izuku then flies right over them and comes in first place. Many others walk out right after him, claiming he somehow cheated, but it was clear he didn't. Even some of the fans would call him names, as he has no place in this festival at all. Hearing all of this, he could only laugh. Next, Midnight reveals the cavalry battle, which makes Izuku scoffs, since he has to depend on other people to create a team, and there's no way he'll be able to make one. This is when Uraraka comes up to him. Well, that's one. We still need 2 more people. Tokoyami would actually decide to join them, noticing Izuku's strength and believing it could be a great asset in the next event. Now, they just needed 1 more person, as finally Mei Hatsumi would join their team as well. Now they have enough members to actually participate. Now comes the easy part, keeping his headband so they come in first place. The cavalry battle begins, and Izuku uses his flames to create a scorching hot wall that no one could go through. Todoroki then freezes this wall, and Izuku smirks. Just as I planned. He then flips all the way to the top, and then lays down on the ice. As he would just look down at everyone else fighting, the teams would make it around this large wall, and notice that Izuku's team was there, but he wasn't there. This is when he shouts out to them as many look up to the top of the ice wall. Izuku then lays back down, not expecting anyone to get up here. For a while this is true, until he hears screaming. Well, if anyone was to make it up here, it would be you. Bakugo rises above the ice with his explosions, shouting Izuku's name. Man, he really is loud. Izuku stands up, breaking off the ice pieces before throwing some at Bakugo and then throwing him to the other side of the ice. As he begins falling down, the ice would also begin to tilt towards him. The students would all manage to get out of the way, but multiple pro heroes have to spring into action to save the civilians who were in attendance from being crushed. The time limit would run out after, as the results are in, with Izuku's team placing first. Many other classes call him out for his non-honorable ways of fighting and endangering people, as many people in the stands would also be aggravated by this so-called hero. They view him more as a villain than anything. The next event was revealed as a tournament, as the first match of the first round was Izuku against Shinso. Ojiro wouldn't try to warn him here because of his disdain for Izuku, as he would just head to his waiting room. I'll become a hero no matter what anyone says about me. Izuku then walks out to fight Shinso, and the match begins. He gets in a lower stance, and before anyone could even blink, Shinso was seen against the wall with a burn mark of a footprint on his chest. Izuku will be declared the winner, yet no one cheers. They only boo him off of the battleground. Izuku would still ignore this, but he does get the attention of one passionate hero watching him. Soon comes the second round, where it seems Todoroki will be facing Izuku, ice against fire, or so it seems. As Izuku goes out to fight, he runs into Endeavor, who commends his heat and speed. But with even more training, he could easily become a great hero. He just needs the right guidance. That's fine with me, as after I beat your son, you can tell me more about it. Endeavor only chuckles while walking away. You won't be able to beat my prodigy of an offspring, no matter how hard you try. Izuku goes to enter the ring, and their match will begin. Todoroki sends ice towards him, only for him to kick it away. And he's then blitzed by Todoroki, getting closer to him, but Todoroki would counter, creating an ice ball around himself. This fear was hard for him to break, as Izuku then looks down at it, jumping on top of it, as flames beneath his feet begin to stretch across the entire arena, causing the spectators to even begin sweating. Izuku then jumps off once he sees Todoroki on the grounds due to the flames. He would manage to stand back up, and only stares at Izuku. It's not over yet. Then show everyone watching your resolve. and become a hero. Become the one they want to defeat this devil. He shoots more ice at Izuku, but he dodges it with ease, and he knees Todoroki in the stomach. Izuku then tries to throw him out of the ring, but he uses ice to save himself. Todoroki tries to think of a way to beat Izuku, but his thoughts are interrupted by his opponent, who punches him in the face over and over again. You really think it's going to be that easy to beat me? I've been training a lot harder than you, my entire life. At least you had a family around you. I wouldn't call what I had a family. Well, even if it wasn't good, you had them. Your father talked so highly of you, but I guess even a hero's judgment can be bad, because it seems like this fight is completely one-sided. Even if my quirk gives me the reputation of a devil, I'll continue to use it until I become a hero, because it's my quirk, and it doesn't belong to anyone else. This statement completely wakes up Todoroki, as flames will push Izuku back, as then we see ice and flames coming from his body. Izuku looks down, as both of his feet were frozen. He then tilts his head back to see ice and flames coming towards him. One side of his body would be impaled by some of the ice, shocking those watching. As the pro heroes go to step in, flames will push him back, as this is when we see part of the ice would be broken by Izuku, and the flames from his feet would have done this. Through his own eyes, he would then enter that very same black and white world, as it's been quite some time. Wait a minute, it's just like before, when I unlocked my quirk. This world, it grants me power, doesn't it? But just where am I? Izuku then subconsciously dodges ice on instinct and floats in the sky using his flames. Looking down, flames are shot towards him, but he evades them easily. Izuku's speed then seems to increase so much so that it shatters the ice as he flies by it. He then goes to land a kick, but the cement hero blocks him off from Todoroki, yet the young hero was still sent flying into the wall behind him. The crowd is silent for a moment, but they begin booing and throwing things towards Izuku as he walks off after being declared the winner. Meanwhile, Todoroki seemed to be perfectly fine. He wasn't injured at all. He even felt better than before. He uses his flame quirk once again to make small flames appear in his hand, but he noticed how it felt as if a weight was lifted off of his shoulder. Todoroki then looks onward towards Izuku, wondering if he could have done that. Izuku's next match will be against Ida, as he ends it similar to their very first battle. Then comes the finals, which will be against Bakugo. The blonde would rush Izuku, who blocks with his fist and slams him to the ground. Explosions will then go off beneath them as he flies to a different side of the arena. Not bad, you damn devil. Show me that firepower. Izuku then kicks Bakugo in the face, and the blonde grabs his ankle. I've been training, waiting on this moment. He slams Izuku to the ground and places his palm on his chest. Die! The explosion then goes off, as Izuku is seen laying on the ground. Bakugo stood over him, but was sent flying into the sky by Izuku. Bakugo would quickly save himself before he crashes onto the ground, but is punched by Izuku. This knocks him off balance, allowing him to land another kick. As his foot connected, the only thing he could hear in his mind, for some reason, was a voice that was urging him to kill. This completely shocked him and stunned him for a moment, just long enough for him to be sent out of the arena by Bakugo, as many would begin to cheer for him. He still sees it as a very cheap way to win, so he was angered, and this still causes him to be locked down on his pedestal with Izuku there in second and Todoroki in third. He tries to figure out what that voice was, but he can't. It sounded familiar, yet he doesn't think he ever heard of it. When class resumes at UA, the Pro Hero Agency listing is up. But somehow, even with coming in second place, Izuku doesn't have any offers, it seems. Wait, he's at the bottom of the list? But he does have one offer. Izuku scoffs until he sees the person who it's from. Endeavor. just the one person who he wanted to train with. But first, he needs to come up with a pro hero name and eventually goes with Infernal. The next time we see Izuku, he was there with Todoroki in the office of Endeavor. They then watch him as he looks over the city. Good. Now suit up so we can go on patrol. They do this for a couple days until Izuku would ask him to train. They're then taken to a room in the building designed for just this. And he has to fight Todoroki, using only their flame abilities. Immediately he tells him to stop, and asks Izuku to explain how he controls the burst of his flames. He then gives him a confused expression, causing the pro hero to show him. He then learns different ways how he can use his flames. And this is where he learns to use the hand signs. Shoto of course knew this, but was even more shocked to figure out that it benefited Izuku to such a high degree. Soon, the attack on Hosu City would start, causing them to head that way. Nomu rampage against the city, as then the trio fly and jump into action. Izuku kicks Nomu away from the citizen and tells him to give back. The Nomu then goes to grab him, but he dodges, and Todoroki would freeze it. Endeavor then breaks through the ice statue and burns it to ash. The pro hero then tells the two of them to keep going. Izuku sees another Nomu that has wings as it would grab a child. Izuku looks to Endeavor, who picks him up and throws him to give him a boost. As this Nomu was sent flying, he grabs the kid and Todoroki makes an ice slide for them. He then puts the child down and hears a battle going on nearby. He then flies up around the city, seeing where it truly was. He then motions for Todoroki to then follow him. Todoroki tells his father that they'll be back, as Izuku makes it to the alleyway just in time to kick Stain off of Ida before he was killed. Damn, I'm not too late. Stain then flips onto a light post, looking down at Izuku. He then points his blade towards him. The devil that we've been looking for. The final piece to the puzzle. Izuku makes another confused expression as Stain would jump off of it, avoiding the flames of Todoroki. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm a hero. The two of them then rush Stain together as he's able to deflect their attacks, but their synchronization gives them some trouble. Izuku manages to land a kick that sends him into a wall, where Todoroki pins him with ice. Izuku looks towards him, asking what he means by the final piece, as Stain would give a speech about how he will be the one to declare a new age of superpowered individuals. He was created for that purpose alone. Izuku steps back, noticing that he's now in this black and white world, which we can just call the Adola Link world, or just Adola for short. The words of the hero killer triggered this coma-like state within him. Izuku would notice that the ground, the black ground that he stepped on, were actually dark-covered bones and black grass. What is this place really? Izuku then hears that very same voice. It's a place I've created just for you, my child. Those flames of yours are truly damaging and destructive to the world. However, I created a world just for them. Everything around you is controlled by your own will and flames. Your true power stems from everything you now see around you. Once you release what you truly are, you'll become the strongest of any of my creations. Izuku wakes up with a blanket wrapped around him and an ambulance and cop cars nearby. He looks at Todoroki, who was standing there, asking what happened, as his classmate explains how they took down the hero killer and the Nomu, but Izuku blacked out during it. Izuku then looks to Stain, who is being put in one of the cars, and stands up, as he walks right over to Endeavor, asking him for a favor. Soon, the students will return to school and prepare themselves for their final exams. Izuku and Bakugo would face their greatest challenge yet, that being All Might. The two would walk into the gate, but before Bakugo could say anything, he was knocked out by a kick from Izuku. All Might then appears right after, saying that wasn't wise for him to do, but Izuku laughs. We both know you won't be able to catch me, especially with you being limited right now. Izuku then does hand signs with Bakugo on his back and bursts through the gate at the other end of the fake city, allowing each of them to earn a passing score. Here, no one invites Izuku out shopping, but he still does go, as he would run in a Shigaraki. The two of them sit down at a shop, and Shigaraki slides Izuku some files across a table. What's this? Think of it as a gift. Between brothers. I'm not your damn brother. Izuku then opens up the files, and his expression will completely change. How the hell do you have all of these? Well, I called you my brother, didn't I? We're somewhat related, in terms that we have one thing in common. Did you ever wonder who your father was, and why you grew up in that strange facility that trained you day and night, working you like a dog? Izuku looks through the documents, finding more and more information. He finishes up and slides it right back to Shigaraki. I don't care what you have to say. Me and you are nothing alike. Tell me, when you really do think, you'll be appreciated as a hero. Even if you are able to become one, as this devil. Well, you'll be the last thing that people want to be saved by. Not even your classmates or teachers stood up for you in the sports festival. No one at the school truly cares about you. They're just afraid of what you will become if you were to turn to a villain. Izuku's eyes widen, processing everything that's told to him, but he knew this deep down inside. Shigaraki then stands up, placing a hand on his shoulder. If you joined me, you'd be surrounded by those who could truly care about you. Just think about it. Shigaraki walks away, and Izuku looks back at the other end of the table to see that he left him the files. Damn it, he did that on purpose. Izuku takes it and finishes shopping before heading back up to the school. He goes to the office of Principal Nezu and gives him the files. I made contact with Shigaraki today. I kept all the casualties to a 0. He only wanted to talk to me. Everything ever about my life is somehow on that file, and even more. The villains are watching us from the shadows. Thank you, Izuku, for your report. You can leave. I don't think I will. I'll ask you this once, Principal Nezu. Was I accepted here because of my good scores? Or was I accepted due to the risk of me becoming a villain was too high? Is the Hero Association scared of what I might become? Principal Nezu stays silent, causing Izuku to walk out of the room. All Might is then called in by him, and he would look through the files, with his suspicions being correct. Somehow this child is connected to All for One. They have to do their best to make sure it does not fall into the hands of evil. A week later, the students of UA are on a bus where they stop near a cliffside. Before Aizawa could even explain what was going on, Izuku jumps down into the forest, hearing it call his name. When he lands on the ground, he doesn't see the rocky monsters. Instead, he sees demons in this black and white Adola world. What the hell? Izuku then bursted forward, destroying them. By the time the rest of his class would jump down, all the creatures, well, they were destroyed, and a trail was left behind, as they would follow it, and it leads them directly to the camp, where food was already being prepared. Todoroki looks around for Izuku, and he would find him on the roof of the building. Why don't you join the rest of us? I'll wait until they all finish eating, and then I'll eat the leftovers. That doesn't make any sense. Why stay away from the class? Izuku then pointed down to them while laying down. You see those genuine smiles? When I go down there, they fade. So I'll just wait until they're done to get my own food. Todoroki understands this and calls Izuku a caring person. You're not as bad as people say you are. You know that? Of course I know that. but I never cared what others think anyway. The next day, the Cat Hero Squad helps the students train, and Izuku focuses on his hand signs and his speed. The goal he had in mind was to access that world that he goes into in his time of need. As every time he does, his flames become more and more powerful. He tries his best, but it doesn't work at all. As a couple days would go by as the class now participates in a game while they're in the forest. As they walk around, smoke comes out of nowhere and begins to choke the students. Izuku swings his leg, sending the smoke away, as Madeline would communicate to all of them and Izuku to go to the mountain towards the east to find Koda. He's the closest and the fastest, so he has to. Izuku bursts into the air and begins speeding that way. Koda is saved just in time by him as he would kick the villain away. The muscle villain gets back up, looking down at Izuku. Well, our target has landed right into my hands. Izuku tells Koda to stay here, as he'll face the villain alone. Izuku speeds past him and kicks him in the neck, performing multiple attacks that do no visible damage at all. With one punch, the villain causes him to cough up blood. This will soon be over, kid, so just come with me, and you can save all your friends down there. Never. I have to keep fighting so that I can protect them. That's a hero's job, and I won't let anyone take it away from me. Izuku then goes to keep hitting him, but nothing works at all. The villain would then grab his leg, beginning to slam him down over and over again, leaving him bruised and beaten. He leaves Izuku on the ground as he would go to finish off the kid. Izuku then tries to use his quirk when he stands up, but he doesn't have enough power. Damn it. No, I can't let you. I have to become stronger. Izuku then hears the words again from that same voice, but this time they just say one word: destroy. This awakens a new power within him, which allows him to completely speed past the villain and save Koda. The kid on his shoulders then looks back at the villain to see the black flames covering what was left of the man's body, as one half had been completely erased. Koda then turns to Izuku, noticing the strange glowing tattoos around his body. As Izuku doesn't even turn around, knowing what he just did, he jumps off the cliff with Koda in his hands. What about the... I don't have to worry about him anymore. Let's get you to safety. Right as Aizawa walks outside, Izuku appears, with these strange tattoos on his body. Izuku hands over Koda, and then listens to the message that his teacher has. In one step, he would completely vanish from sight, leaving only the black flames in the spot where he once stood. Izuku somehow reappears, taking down the villains that the cat heroes were facing in an instant. Izuku then tells Mandalay what to tell everyone. He would then head off in the forest to help save his classmates and some of Class B. As first, he runs into Tokoyami, as he would easily defeat him after he figures out how to change his flames back to their normal color. The light from them would be used in this battle. As Todoroki was preparing to finish off the villain that he was facing, he was taken down and Izuku would appear. Find everyone and group together. Todoroki nods as he would watch Izuku vanish from thin air once again. The rest of the students then noticed that the villains would stop attacking them, but Uraraka and a couple others would trail some of the villains just for a little bit, as we then see all the villains surrounding Izuku fighting him. His black flames ran out by now, and he seemed very injured from his battle with the muscle villain. He was taking a serious beating, but it was then stopped as Shigaraki would appear. Well, the choice should be clear. Join us, or they die. This is when the Nomu appears behind the group of girls who don't know what they could do to avoid this situation. Izuku is then forced to go with them, and the Nomu leaves the girls alive, as they're shocked that he would do such a thing for them. He sacrificed himself to save everyone here. They would head back to the camp where they explained what happened, but the others don't believe him. The only people who would believe are Todoroki, Tokoyami, and maybe maybe even Bakugo, but mainly the people who saw it. We go over to Izuku, who is now in the villain's hideout. Shigaraki sips a drink and looks back at him. Don't tell me you think you can really be a hero still. I am one, I don't think it. I've never seen a hero kill someone the way you did the muscle villain. Izuku then thinks back to that moment and tells Shigaraki he's wrong. If that's what you truly think, then it'll make sense why you should join us. Do you believe the pro heroes will even come to save you? Izuku then turns his head. Even you know they don't really care about you. Some time then passes, as the students from Class 1A don't even go to save him. They soon all believe that their classmate is a traitor. When all the heroes find the base of the villains, Izuku wasn't even there at all. All Might yelled out asking where he was, but Shigaraki and the other villains would be teleported away. As we cut to the area with the pro heroes and some UA students, where the Nomu facility had been destroyed, suddenly a black slash would be in the air as two people stepped through wearing black outfits. One of them had a hood on and was much shorter than the taller man in the suit. A bunch of heroes and police officers try to attack them, but they're taken down in the blink of an eye by the hooded figure. Black flames are left in the area as he stands, watching the rest of the villains be teleported in as well. Momo, Todoroki, and Uraraka, who were there just to destroy the facility, then slowly watched this figure turn at them as they would catch a glimpse of his face. It's Izuku. Soon, All Might arrives to the area to face One For All, and Izuku looks towards the man. All Might reaches out a hand to the boy, as Izuku only turns to him glaring. Japan and all its heroes turned their back on me long before I even came to UA. The flames that killed my mother, do you know who they belong to? All Might's eyes would widen, and Izuku then yells at him, "Tell me, who do they belong to? It seems you already know." All Might then thinks back to the file that he read on Izuku. The night of his mother's death, Endeavor was in the area fighting a villain, where his flames were out of control for some reason. Izuku then looks to All Might. There's no such thing as a villain in this world. That's something the people and the heroes made up, so they could feel better about themselves. There are heroes on each side of the coin. Heroes who people look up to, and heroes who have their own stories that they must prove to the world. Izuku kicks All Might in his stomach, right where his scar was, causing him to cough up blood. Gran Torino then runs in trying to kick Izuku, but his face is grabbed and slammed into the ground. All For One, I leave these two so-called heroes to you. I'll be taking my leave with the rest. The man nods and watches Izuku create a black scythe with his flames, with one skull on it as an ornament, as he then slices through the air, creating a rift where he would travel through with the League of Villains. As all of this would be broadcasted across Japan. The battle between All For One and the number one hero still goes the same, but in his final speech, he was directing it towards Mirio. Not a single word is heard about Izuku after this for a very long time, as here when we get to the overhaul arc. But it would go the same, just replacing Deku with Mirio, since he has One For All in this story. As Overhaul was being transported after his defeat by 100% Mirio, his transportation vehicle is hijacked by the League of Villains. Shigaraki takes a pill and each of his arms, but Izuku scoffs. "You're getting soft on me, Shigaraki. I like to make an impact on people whenever they see me." Izuku kills Overhaul and a bunch of citizens on the road before transporting the group of villains away with his flame rift. Before he steps through, Endeavor arrives. He wanted to speak, but he couldn't, as the last thing the pro hero sees is a devilish smile upon the face of his former student, who vanishes within an instant. Endeavor curses himself for his failures not only with his first son, but also with his adoptive one as well. A couple weeks would pass as he would be promoted to the #1 hero of Japan, and as he was having a dinner with Hawks, he would be attacked by a Nomu. After Endeavor narrowly defeats the creature, 2 people would appear. Black and blue flames then surround the area. Dabi begins to talk with Endeavor while attacking him, but Mirko jumps in to save the day. Her kick was then blocked by Izuku's own that sends her flying backwards into a building. That's enough, Dabi. Let's let them go. To kill them now, well, it would be a waste. Hawks and Mirko try to stop the pair from leaving, but both are met by the black flame surrounding them in a circle. A rift in the air is then created by the scythe of Izuku, and Dabi was the first to step through. Endeavor shouts for Izuku to wait. As he would turn to him, "Why did you give up on becoming a hero?" The teen chuckles. "I don't have to explain myself. To you of all people. A fake #1. Hawks then sends his feathers towards Izuku, but he had decided to show off his power. He blocks the feathers with his scythe and then tells the pro heroes they should work on their skills, as this battle is truly just beginning. All around this city, people burst into flames and begin attacking the citizens. Every hero in the area is dispatched to kill these infernals. All investigation begins to see what caused this, but after an autopsy was done on the organs of one of the victims, they were all pitch black. Not only this, but there were also small embers that were left inside of their body. Word of this gets back to the Hero Association, causing them to worry about how Izuku was able to do this. Weeks later, we would see the League of Villains raiding a building with unknown figures inside. Izuku stood in the corner, looking on curiously. "Man, this is boring. Do they even have supplies or money for us to use?" One of the men then tries to attack him, but he's grabbed by the face and burned to nothing but a skeleton. Dabi, who stood tall next to him, calls the kid brutal. "Brutal, huh? I don't want to hear that from you of all people. I'm pretty pissed from hiding all the time. So unless the rest of you want to die, get out of this room." The League of Villains quickly exits just in time to see Izuku's flames burst through the building and its windows. When they head back into the room, it was full of scorch marks all over the floor and the ceiling, with blood everywhere and skeletons around the room. Toga jumped onto Izuku's back as he was crouching down looking at one of them. "You're pretty dangerous and cute. You should give me some of your blood. Get off of me, you damn leech. No fun." Twice then encourages her to keep pursuing Izuku as he ships them together. He complains about this as well, turning to Twice, who gets scared for a moment. Shigaraki then tells him to calm down, and Izuku listens. A day later, the villains are sitting in an abandoned building, planning out what they would do next. Spinner begins to attack Shigaraki, saying he's an awful leader. Izuku intervenes with this conversation, telling Spinner to shut up. But then they soon hear a loud noise in the background. They would run outside to see a giant man, and Izuku smirks. "Who the hell is that? He must be looking for a problem." "Are you the successor of All for One?" Shigaraki then prepares himself, and Izuku steps in front of all of them. "You want him dead or alive?" "I need him alive." That's all I needed to hear. Izuku vanishes from in front of them and now stands on the shoulders of the giant. He would try to grab him, but Izuku vanishes again and with blinding speed dashes around the behemoth of a creature. Izuku then looks back and is sent flying next to a radio on the ground. "Sorry, Izuku, but even your flames won't be enough to burn through his skin." "Well, what a surprise. It would have been better to know that before now, Doc. Anyway, where have you been?" "In the same place I always have been." Izuku then stands up. "Alright then, after we beat this guy, I'll come see you, and we can have a nice little chat. Face to fist." "Nonsense, boy." Black goo then comes from the mouth of each member, including Izuku, as they are teleported to the base of the doctor. Dabi points out the difference in these Nomu, but each member soon notices Izuku staring at an empty test tube. They see the doctor far ahead in the shadows, who turns back to them. Seems you've got some pretty sharp eyes, Dabi. Those are very close to being called masterpieces. Toga then runs over to Izuku. What are you looking at? It's nothing. Don't worry about it. The doctor then turns in his direction. Seems you still remember the place you were reborn. Izuku closes his eyes, remembering being released from this test tube by the doctor and All for One. The two welcomed him into a world and promised he'd be the new hero of it. Memories flooded into his mind as the doctor talked to the rest of the group. He then finally tells them to make Gigantomachia submit to them, and then Shigaraki will have everything at his disposal. The doctor gives them all communication lines with him, and then they are transported back. Izuku wasted no time rushing in at Gigantomachia. You again. Those flames of yours won't burn through my tough skin. Whatever. Izuku then dodges one of his punches. Who said they were only good for burning? Izuku slams his scythe into the ground, causing flames from below to then grab the legs of Gigantomachia. What is this? Izuku then reinforces his weapon and swings it down on his opponent, shocking everyone as Izuku would cut through Gigantomachia's skin, even causing blood to shoot out from his chest. Shigaraki then asked the doctor why Izuku seemed stronger than ever before. As we would cut to the doctor in his laboratory, while looking at the test tube that Izuku was reborn in. His flames, well, they come from a separate world from our own. As in that dimension, everything burns constantly and never stops. That is where Izuku gains the ability to use his flames. What you're most likely witnessing right now is him combining the two worlds, utilizing more and more of the flames from that world into our own, which in turn makes him stronger. Izuku and you are the most connected, however, but you already know that, since each of you is technically a child of the Great Master. This caused Shigaraki to then jump into the battle with Izuku. Since he was the oldest, it was his job to set the example, not Izuku. Seeing this causes the rest of the league to help as well, except for Dabi. The group then soon realizes that Gigantomachia can grow stronger as well. For days, the fight goes on, and it's all left up to Izuku, who keeps evolving with him. Toga states it's amazing he can keep this up with their opponent for hours on end. While watching them fight, Shigaraki then gets a call from Reed Destro, the Grand Commander of the Liberation Army. When the conversation was over, they would watch as Izuku is slammed into the ground into a crater. No! Shigaraki then runs over to see Machia sleeping next to the bloody and unconscious body of his younger brother. Shigaraki throws Izuku over his shoulder and first teleports him back to the doctor. Next, he goes back with his team as they would ask about him, saying the mission is still on go, but it may prove to be harder without Izuku there. Don't worry about that. The doctor says he should come most likely in the middle of our battle. If anything, just kill them fast and make him jealous he didn't get to witness the battle. Most of the battles here with the Liberation Army goes the same, as when Toga evolves her own quirk, which allows her to kill off her opponent, before she could fall to the ground, she's caught by a strange figure. She looks up at his red skin and his horns, with glowing yellow tattoos all around his body. Not half bad. I guess I'll have to give credit where it's due. Toga then notices she feels much better from her injuries and also begins to heal. Once her vision clears back up, she asked if this was Izuku. He smirked, and she would go in to kiss him, but she dropped on the ground. What the heck? Anyway, you still need some rest. He knocks her out and leaves her in a safe location, where Twice is the one to find her. Up in the tallest building, someone then appears inside with Mr. Skeptic and Reed Destro. They're shocked to see that someone could easily sneak up on them. Jiran was surprised as well to see what looks like Izuku. Yeah, it's me, you old fool. Stop staring at me so hard. It's giving me the creeps. Reed Destro then pulls a knife, and he holds it to the neck of Jiran. The knife then melts while in the presence of Izuku, burning his hand. The man then looks to see, now, that Jiran was in the possession of Izuku. The teen sits down, and his red skin slowly vanishes, as do his horns, as he sits there. Oh, looks like the form went away. Well, the doc did say I'd only have a couple seconds with it. I wonder how I can reactivate it. Well, that's fine. I'll wait for the others to arrive before I begin this massacre. It would be a waste for my big bro not to see the destruction I'll cause in his name. Reed Destro tries to attack Izuku, but his fist is stopped by Izuku's one hand alone. This shocks Jiran. Izuku, how did you... Hey, don't worry about your fingers. He then looks down, seeing that his hands were healed, and he was already untied. Man, you really don't get it, do you? Izuku then points down to the ground while letting go of his fist, and the man would look down to see the burning black skeletons on the ground standing at the bottom of this building. What is that? The people of this town. Don't you recognize them? Izuku begins laughing at the man in his face, as Jiran wonders what happened to Izuku. He wasn't like this before from the time that they talked. But soon enough, Twice would come up the elevator and creates clones of each member of the League. Izuku, upon seeing his clone, grabbed its face and turned it Twice. Is this how you view me? Twice doesn't even want to answer, as he just watches Izuku burn the clone to nothing but ash. The leader of the army had already defeated the clone of Shigaraki, who would tell them that this building was already going down. Izuku then warps them to another rooftop while watching the building shatter. Shigaraki was seen walking towards his opponent as this battle would begin. Here is where Shigaraki would evolve his quirk even further and defeat his opponent. But as his battle was reaching its climax, Gigantomachia would appear, but was confronted by Izuku. Let's keep going where we left off. No, you brat. I wish only to face this so-called successor of my master. Yeah, well, we have some rules here. To face the king, you'll have to defeat his royal guard, and that's no one other than me. In his head, Izuku tells his older brother not to lose, as he won't either. He steps in towards Gigantomachia, causing their battle to begin as well. The two rampage throughout what's left of this city, trading blows. It seems they were somewhat equal, but it was becoming more and more apparent that Izuku was stronger. His quirk and raw strength alone kept growing with each hit. It all caused his transformation to reawaken in that moment. And soon after, Izuku was found by Twice, Jiran, and Dabi sitting on the head of the defeated Gigantomachia. At the same time, Shigaraki got his own opponent to submit under his authority, making them the new leader of this grand army. A meeting was held soon after, at night, with many of the villains and army. Izuku stood with his brother as he made the declaration. Hawks was also in the crowd, saying that this won't be good at all. And after the announcement, the two brothers walk off as Shigaraki begins to fall. Izuku catches him and places his arm around his own shoulder. Don't worry about it. Anytime either of us falls, the other will be right there to pick us up. That's what brothers do. Shigaraki actually smiles, and the two walk off to get some much needed rest, as the heroes have no idea what's coming to them.